We are live and welcome back to everybody who's on Tarot Time. I see a lot of familiar names there. So thanks for coming. So basically, there's more planets in retrograde than I can count on one hand. And I was like, this is the time to call the heavy hitters. I need the experts. So that's why we have Sharita here. We are entering a very interesting fall. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Sharita, but I think with all this retrograde energy, this is really the time to really set our energies and prepare for all the drama that's going to be happening in the stars above us or the planets above us in the next 6 months.
All the drama? Oh, the drama that's just going to keep going like this? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
we got a lot going on.
So for you guys that are new or don't know Sharita, she's an expert in astrology, numerology, Chaldean numerology, has great teachers, and has been studying this period of history for how many years? What, like the last 10 years? Or
well, we knew it. Well, I always have studied America in the work that I do. And if you go on to sharitastar.com, you will find at least for almost a decade now, I've always done like how we can do a forecast for a human. The countries can have a forecast, and an entity, a business, everybody has their own personal forecast, and we're always talking about like how energy works collectively. But what we can always do is tap into that personal, the way that where we fit into the collective puzzle. Because it's really important. And this is something, and I think, if your audience has seen me before and heard me say, you've got to understand your line of sight and your sphere of influence at this time. And if you don't, then you better figure it out really quickly, because local action is going to make national impact right now in America. You have to understand what's going on locally. I cannot stress that enough. Now, we know we're a vast, huge nation. Everything that is going to happen in America is pivotal for the rest of the world. And this fall is unprecedented for what changes things one way or the other, because nothing is decided. Nothing is absolute yet. There is no, oh, this is exactly going to fall out like this, because what is coming is so unexpected, is that none of us know. All we know is we're going to expect the unexpected. But depending upon people's local action will depend how powerful the national impact is going to be.
Right.
And I want to connect the dots on what has happened just as we're, obviously, you and I, last time we spoke and we got together, we talked about how tumultuous the summer was going to be and how interesting things are going to be showing up. And I mean, we've been saying there's this unexpected. July was a very, powerful, unexpected universal month as well. But July started an interesting pattern that September has brought into a fuller picture. And I'm not going to talk about politics, and I'm not going to talk about specifics, but I just want people to, you take what I'm going to tell you here right now, and you go connect your own dots. Go do your own research, because you should be doing that anyway. Have your own discernment. I want you to go back to July 8th. Who got assassinated? I want you to go to August 8th. Who got invaded? Rated. And then I want you to go to September 8th and who passed away. Okay. We've got October 8th is coming. That is when all of this, you mentioned in the beginning, we're under this, heavy retrograde cycle right now. That is when what we're under is the 5 outer planets are all retrograde. And that came into play in the middle, well, it was really towards the end of August. On the 24th, Uranus went retrograde. That will not break until next year in January. But now we're under all 5 planets, outer planets, from Jupiter all the way out to Pluto. All 5 of them are in retrograde motion. Of course, we all know right now Mercury is retrograde. And if you have not gotten the course that Adam, Heather, and I worked so very hard for you to do, get that course on adambetweentheworlds.com. It's $33. It is an amazing way for you to understand what is coming right now and what is going on. We did that. We did it as an audio only because we really wanted you to take that silent listen time with this instead of looking at us and everybody having to meet up at a certain live class time. This is a really, really powerful course to help you through. Adam's transmission is amazing. Heather's meditation is amazing. And I talked to you and Math Geek out on dates and everything. So I'm going to capture about 5 dates today. I want you to be completely ready for in your personal forecast so that you understand and can navigate this collective. But what is coming? And I don't know what's coming on October 8th, to be determined. But that is the day that the 5 planets break their retrograde because Pluto will turn direct on October 8th. And that's the day before this beginning passage of all the full moons for 6 months are going to lock up at the holding point of 16 degrees of the sign. October 8th, I don't know, like I said, I don't know what's coming, but something very powerful is pulling in around October 8th. And of course, that full moon is going to be, arriving the next day, starting this pattern that every full moon is going to align or oppose, I should say, because it's an opposition when we have a full moon. It's going to all be happening at the 16th degree. So this is all starting at the full moon in Aries, October 9th. November 8th, there's one more month, month number 5, November 8th, we have a 16 degree full moon, lunar eclipse, conjunct Uranus retrograde in Taurus. Get ready. And I don't need to remind you what November 8th is in America. The world will remember, the entire world will remember what happens on this day, whatever it is. It will be as important as understanding what happened on 9/11. And the determination of this election, whether or not it is held, postponed, whatever shows up. Because when we're dealing with that kind of energy, it is expect the unexpected. None of us can predict it exactly. There's no if you hear people predicting what they're saying is going to happen, I wouldn't listen to them because they can't predict it. It's impossible. But we know it's going to be highly volatile, highly, I won't say the words, but I can use the acronym WTF. It'll be that kind of thing. And this is just the beginning of how this fall is going to really roll out here. And as the last full moon of 2022 arrives, now we do get off that 8th of the month date. So December 7th is the last full moon of 2022. And that's going to conjunct the Mars retrograde exactly at 16 degrees of Gemini. Now, if you know the 16...
Wait. Oh, this, maybe you're going to explain that, but what is the significance of 16? Isn't that the lightning struck citadel in numerology?
I was just going to pull up the imagery for you. So you all understand Adam. He's always talking about... make sure get my there we go, you can see it really well. Adam's always, obviously you just came out of tarot time if you were here at 11 a.m. this morning. This relates to the Tower card. When we're working with Chaldean numerology, we are working with a loose translation of the major arcana in certain ways that some numbers translate. So this is one of them, that the 16 in Chaldean numerology is very loosely translated from the Tower card in Tarot, but it represents the shattered citadel in Chaldean numerology. This is, everybody's going to get knocked off their tower, so to speak. So anybody put on a false pedestal. And I do believe whatever's coming in at the first lockup of this, this is 6 months. So we've got October, November, December, next January, next February, next March. Every full moon is going to align at this energy. It's going to oppose, I should say. So we're going to go from Aries full moon all the way to a Virgo full moon by next March. They're all going to lock up at this number. That's chaos, folks. It's chaos like we've never seen it. But this is why we keep saying, and if you are listening to people like Adam, and you're listening to people who truly have the correct discernment to translate this information for you so that it is not gloom and doom and or just opposite of that, it is ridiculous hopium that you will not take your local action to make national impact because you're waiting for someone to rescue you. And I don't mean to get a little hot under the collar, but I'm so tired of people telling you to sit back on your laurels and not do anything. You have to do something. You have to either be extremely getting prepared right now, because this is going to be a long winter, folks. This is not going to be like, oh, everything's just lovely. Let's go skiing. You know, no. This is going to be, we're straightening things out that have been brought to us in a severe illusion, and we're going to have to stay in the eye of a storm. This is what we're talking about, the perfect storm that they created. This is all by design, folks. None of this is coincidental. And these people, whoever they are, they understand what Adam and I do on a whole nother level. And here's something I want to bring in to the conversation about this month. And if some of, and I know some of you are on Soul Certainty Community, which is my Patreon community. So you all know we're in the universal month right now of the Magician in our 6th universal year. Look at this guy. I mean, he's a little, this translates to the devil card in Tarot. Now, this is something I'm tying into this, and this is because when the 3rd event lined up in a row on the 8th of the month from July, I'm gonna pull this in. People can take it or leave it for what they believe it could mean. So the 15 is a number of deep esoteric significance, the alchemy vibration through which all magic is manifested. It's extremely lucky, and it carries the essence of enchantment with it. It's associated with good talkers, eloquence of speech, the gifts of music, art, and the drama. It bestows upon the person or entity represented by it with a dramatic temperament and strong personal magnetism and a compelling charisma. The 15 vibration is especially fortunate for obtaining money gifts and favors from others because of its powerful appeal to the altruistic nature of people. However, there are no roses without thorns, and the ancients warn that the 15 rules the lower levels of occultism when it is associated with the single numbers 4 or 8. Go back to September 8th. Do your research. Such people will use every art of magic, even black magic, hypnosis, and mental suggestion to carry out their purpose. Or the contrary is true. The 4 or 8 person will become the victim of others using the same methods. Other than this morning, the compound number is extremely fortunate. So, but if you are using this number for selfish purposes, it doesn't turn out too well at the end of the story. So you got to read between the lines, folks. What we are watching right now is such And understand the word occult it means hidden. And do you know how many people are being accused of being in a cult right now, or wherever you're coming from in your perspective on things? This is a magical month where the magician is waving a lot of things around, and depending on the energy they're coming from, there's a lot of hypnosis happening. There's a lot of things going on in this world that we have to be very careful of. And September's not over with, as we well know. We have more days to come. And I'm wondering now, September 22nd this year is, of course, autumn equinox. That's a 4 vibration. Be very, utilize your discernment on autumn equinox this year. And that's coming up this Thursday. What's interesting about that day too is the fact that we have a long 21-hour moon void. Something I just wrote about today. If you're on Soul Certainty Community, I do my moon void, of course, alerts every week. I don't know what's going to be blowing out on this Thursday, but be very careful what you think is true about it. That's all. I'll just relate it like that, because the moon void starts very early in the day, and it almost encompasses 24 hours. It's about 21 hours. That's a long time. And that particular one, by the way, it's going to be a moon void from Leo, the moon waning in Leo, because we're still on a waning moon, because we just, as you all know, we've been purging out of that full purge, full moon on the 10th of September. But we get on this particular void, it opposes Saturn retrograde, who is pulling into his station right now. Now, Saturn later in October will follow Pluto turning direct. Pluto turns direct on October 8th, breaking the all outer planets retrograde show. Mercury will have turned around. Mercury's an inner planet, so outer planet retrogrades and inner planet retrogrades are different to understand. For those of you who also follow along with me, you know I have a new podcast out, the Sharita Star Power Hour. You can find that on my website or on Mind, Body, Spirit FM. And I've done a few episodes, go back to the episodes that are there. But I explain the difference between what an inner planet and how we master Mercury retrograde is all about, and then what the energies are like of when we're experiencing these outer planet retrogrades. And what we've been doing since the 24th of August is all outer planets have been retrograde. So it's been a subtle, but very, kind of very subconscious, really strong purging time. And again, that all breaks as October 8th arrives, as we're a day before an Aries first part of this silent listen passage coming. This is the most incredulous thing I've ever seen coming in what our fall is going to roll out. And as we switch from this 7 month, we're not in the 7 month yet. As we switch from this very interesting magician month that we've got to be very cautious about how we're perceiving what's going on, we get to go into another very observational universal month. And it's just going to be a singular energy of 7. This is all Neptune for October of 2022 as a universal month. So we were in a 7 universal month back in January of 2022. And I think you remember, Adam, we were under double retrogrades back in January. It was a very silent listen kind of energy month in October, even though we do get out of this Mercury retrograde and we get the shadow through mid-October. We're now also, since September 3rd, we're under the approach to the Mars retrograde that begins at the close of October on the 30th. And October is it's Neptune. You're swimming in the seas. And this is another, it's a very strong silent listen universal month energetically. So, I mean, we're really winding. I had said to people, a long time ago, winding down 2022 was just going to be one amazing thing after another. So, again, local action creates national impact. Your line of sight, your sphere of influence. This is very important. Got to get all this going. Now, October 30th is when the Mars retrograde starts. That won't end until January 12th of next year. So that Mars is going to be retrograde for a little over a couple months. Very, very challenging. Now, if you're, obviously following along, you realize that that November 8th date that we discussed earlier is going to be under the Mars retrograde. I'll make another point of reference to 2020. We were under Mars retrograde on election day in 2020 as well. Don't think this year is going to be any less straightened out, fair, just. There's going to be such controversy surrounding this election. It will not, it'll make your head spin compared to what happened in 2020. Whatever you believe about it, and I'm not here to tell you what to believe about. There's controversy surrounding the election to this day. People are still arguing about it. Whatever the truth is, I don't know. Because none of us know the truth. I mean, and I think this year, perhaps we might find out a little bit more about the truth. Because these once we start getting into this lockup of these 16-degree full moons that carry us through next spring, we're going to find out a lot of things about all the pedestal people. That's what I call it. If anybody put on that tower pedestal, the lightning is coming to knock them off over these next 6 months. Now, for you, what does that mean for you? Another thing I do have is a special right now to take you through, because especially if you have natal points in your particular birth chart that are anywhere near that 16 degrees, you're gonna get boom, 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 boom from all these full moons, number one. And what the Uranus retrograde is doing, what the Mars retrograde do, they're all coming over that same 16-degree points as this fall, as the year finales. So really understanding that on a personal level, how this energy is coming is going to allow you to do that line of sight, sphere of influence. Local action makes national impact. What are you here to do right now? And one of the things we also talked about in the workshop is this time under this particular retrograde of Mercury is reconnecting us with how we are meant to be serving at this time to move forward. What are we doing? What do we need to be preparing for on a personal level so that we can help what our community is going to need? We all have a different way that we fit into that collective puzzle to watch and see how we are going to be an important part of this healing. Most importantly, it's a healing process that's coming in all that's going to be happening next on a worldwide level. But America is so pivotal because we are the country that really, we stand for the freedom more than anything else. And if we don't maintain that freedom, we it's going to be, that's what the world won't be very happy about. And so those are important. Now, what also pulls in is we have, as we talked about, there's that big lunar eclipse on November 8th. But before that, we have a solar eclipse 5 days before Mars turns retrograde on the 25th of October. So you want to know where that's going to be in your life, because that's a really potent thing of new beginnings. It's going to be in Scorpio. It's going to be a highly transformational eclipse as well. But it's powerful because it actually conjuncts the planet in charge of 2022, and that's Venus. Perfectly conjuncts Venus. that eclipse on the 25th of October, 1 month after the next new moon coming on September 25th. So that's going to be highly indicative of how we're going to move forward as well. But that eclipse is going to have a strong effect, again, moving into the spring, because it'll last for the 6 months. And especially the lunar eclipse that'll couple it by November 8th, again on election day, conjunct the Uranus retrograde as Mars is retrograde. And then, I mean, it's just like I said, it's like, I just never seen so many like wild things happening. But what I love about November is that it's a 17 universal month. It's an 8, it's an 8 root of it, but it's the higher energy of the 17. This is the star of the Magi. So this is where, things can truly shift in a very powerful way. So whatever happens on election day is going to be very interesting to see how this universal energy can pull through. And I do remember as well, Adam, when we were talking about December, when you did, you and I did our crossover comparison at the beginning of the year, and you mentioned how turbulent December would wind up. Because here's what'll happen either way. Whatever happens on November 8th, somebody's not happy. So we're going to have to deal with that outcome, whichever way nobody's happy. I mean, because somebody's not going to be happy about how all this goes. So whether it is that we are it'll be a civil war in America, because that's another high. I get into all this too. If you're on Soul Certainty on Patreon with me, go back to July 4th when I posted America's forecast. I mean, I dive into the full details of how some of these dates that we're talking about right now and many more things are, hitting in America's chart and what all this means. And that eclipse, by the way, coming on November 8th for America, just to like kind of pull in, I don't know what it is, but it's something very surprising surrounding our children that we are going to either be revealed or we're going to understand. And I don't know, again, because we expect the unexpected with it, but there's going to be a lot of things coming out either of the woodwork. It could be a lot of different things. And the way that the Mars retrograde is going to work is impacting the way that this country's healthcare system is in place, the way that we can serve, the way that we are allowed, the entire workforce of the country, but especially the healthcare system. So I don't know, the connectivity of those two things for me tells me we're either going to get some pretty strong revelations about what hasn't been done up to snuff, what was never told to us in pure disclosure, or what they say transparency. I think there's going to be just so much shock factor, because the Uranus, that lunar eclipse on November 8th, conjuncting that Uranus retrograde, there is a lot of shock on the coming. And that's a global thing. It's not just a America thing, but it is about our country, our children in this country, our abilities to manifest, even if it wouldn't just talk about kids alone, but there's something very strong surrounding children and what's really been going on, which I think is gonna like kind of pull some people. They probably might need therapy with what they could learn is plausible. But you had said, back to how we're going to finish off December, which is our last month of autumn this year. We're in a 9, we're back to a single digit energy, but we're in a 9 universal month, which is Mars guided. But Mars is retrograde in December. But this is warrior up, whatever you do. And you got that full moon, December 7th, will conjunct the Mars retrograde in a 9 universal month. It's a lot going on.
So I just want
And
to interject.
we all want to know how. Again, you want to know. And you had said either we are at WW3 or there's something just so incredulous going on where things are, I mean, 9 is about endings. So there's a lot of things coming to very strong conclusions. Things just, they will not be what they once were in this, finale of this mastering the value of compassion year that, 2022 has been all about in the first place. But your compassion and your need to put on your warrior is going to be like December. If people don't want to be a warrior in December, they're just going to get caught up in a conflict that they do not need to be a part of. So discernment. How does all that agree with spirit, Adam? I've been talking too much. You gotta get in here and chat.
Well, let me put it this way. Now you can confirm with our audience that we did not talk about what you were going to say at all before this event. Like I had no idea what you were
No,
going
and
to say.
I haven't watched anything you've done because you know how I like to come from a very give it to you how I see it, and then you and I like talk shop and compare notes because I don't want anybody else's stuff in my head.
Right. So a lot of you were with me at 11 on tarot time. Did I or did I not virtually bring up every point that Sharita made just in this last half hour, right down to the children? Virtually every point that you made came up in tarot time with a lot of similar.
This week, like an hour ago or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, tarot time technically is just for the week, but it's just interesting that energy's in the air. Discernment.
It's in the air. Yeah.
One of the major things and the points I made a couple times is, because the powers that be know people are awakening, they know there's a spiritual movement. There are going to be a lot more false prophets that have this ability to use magic, right? That's the magician, the dark arts that have the ability to use magic or consciousness to make you think they're amazing enlightened beings and you need to follow them. Be in your heart. You can't be fooled when you're in the heart frequency. As soon as you feel any sense of like anxiety, as soon as you feel any of that, you've been pulled out of the heart frequency, and you cannot trust anything you believe when that happens. You need to go back into your heart, feel it expanding, feel love and compassion. Then your intuition is going to tell you who's real and who's fake, because the fake ones are going to resemble the real ones a lot. So we talked virtually all the stuff we talked about. And if you guys didn't see Tarot Time, well, go check that out.
Well, now you have to go watch Tarot Time, and then you can connect all the dots. I'll go back and watch it because obviously I was getting ready to do this, but and I didn't, because I didn't want even to. I normally like hopping on Tarot Time if I can, but today I said no, let me just do this totally fresh and not get anything. Do I have any? I think that was all. And that those big, those dates, and I have a couple specials right now too under my forecasting packages. If you want to know what the Mars retrograde, what is that going to be like in your life? What do you want to be prepared for the most? What area of your life is that Mars retrograde going to be at work? How are these eclipses working with you? And more importantly, what is that 16-degree lockup for 6 months? How is that aspecting you? And I've been doing a few of these already for the people who are, hopping on board and getting prepared. And some people are getting, some people I'm like, I am so glad you decided to do this because now you're going to really understand, how you're going to have your best empowerment for this time and not allow these energies to knock you down and keep you in your heart. We want to stay. It's so important to stay in our heart space for this time frame, and not lose sight of what it is that we are personally supposed to be doing as that piece of the collective puzzle. That's what we're all here for, is to help, or at least the people who are, reachable and teachable. I think we're going to be watching quite a lot of things with the people who just don't, they're not here right now to get it, or they're not here to be a part of what goes this way. Their souls are doing something different. They're contracted to do something else, and that's fine. And I know a lot of people, can relate to that, depending on how you think people are they don't listen right now, or they're wherever they are in their headspace. Don't force anything. You can't force anything on people. There's always this, that expression that we always talk about. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When a person is ready to hear whatever the truth is, no matter how much it's going to hurt, then they'll be ready. But some people just will never be ready for the truth, and that's not their contract. And we just have to respect that too.
Right.
And step away. And that's where you really get your warrior strength, and you become more discerning. You're not here to rescue people, everybody. They will rescue themselves and start paying attention if that is where they are contracted at this time. If that's part of the shift, you can lead them. You can lead them by example, but that's it. Right. There's no force. I watch a lot of that, especially, on social media, like people are kind of like, sometimes they're just like sort of forceful with how they say, like, and it's like, I'm not here to scold anybody. If you don't want to see what it is, then that's fine. That's where you're at right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is what your experience is supposed to be compared to it. That's just the way it goes. You again, can't force people. So this is that, we're in this, exercising or mastering the value of compassion, seeking to understand, what? I'm just going to get into my heart space, and I'm just going to allow that person to do whatever it is that they want to do. And sometimes you may have to just step away and just not say anything. And that's going to be the best thing for both of you, so that we're not forcing and putting things. I think the truth will speak for itself in due time. That's just kind of how it's going to go.
Agreed.
We shall see. But everything it's going to take a great level of patience. It's going to take a great level of compassion. But it's going to take a great level of understanding what it truly means to be the eye of the storm. We're in this time right now where we move into it, and we've just got to stay in the eye of it. And that's it, to the best of our possible ability, and not, don't get in those winds. Your power is in the eye. And always remember that. But remember, local, everything, line of sight, sphere of influence, what you can do locally, and know who you can trust around you. Most important thing you can do right now is understand that, aside from your forecast, personally.
Well, I've got Sharita's website on the screen for you. So if you want to, contact her through the website. Because, like Sharita said, you want to know how these things are hitting you personally in your personal chart, in order to really make sense of it. Because, we have different energies that are expressed through our natal chart, our numerology, and all that stuff. So, that's great. I mean, great information anyway. And it is great. It's a great time. Like Sharita said, stay in the eye of the storm. I always say that's the heart chakra. The winds can howl, but if you're in that eye of the storm, from the eye, you can direct, you can influence the movement of that storm.
Mm-hmm.
Those winds.
It's the calmest part of the storm is the eye of it, obviously. We all know that part.
Yeah.
And that, again, the power of people who choose to take the silent listen, to be able to then go and take action. So, and this will become extremely important as November gets here, or I'm sorry, October. October will teach us a great many things about honing that and perfecting what our meditation or just our observation, discernment practices all are, and the value of what that holds in our personal, spiritual toolbox, so to speak. Being able to do that, to stay calm as all this stuff just starts brewing, which it will. We can be guaranteed the storm is going to start brewing. That's the one thing we can tell you. We don't know exactly how the timeline is going to be shifting from this one to that one, but there's a lot going on, and there's just, it's just a lot. It's a lot of stuff going on. So keep your observation eyes open and your discernment cap on. Be compassionate. Be a warrior. There's no other way to stay in the eye of the storm. That's how I look at it. Those practices will help you stay in your own power at this time.
We talked about warriorship too in tarot time. Yeah, you'll get a kick out of it. You'll be like, oh, right. We spoke on that. Another thing we spoke on was the food.
You're gonna have to be the warrior, especially this is December. And let me get that a little closer. Like, you see how that, so this is the 9, this is the Mars, it's the Mars universal month. This is when the Mars will be very intensely retrograde. But you see how he's holding that sword? He's not holding it. He's balancing the sword between his hands, and he's using his, like Yoda, this is like, Yoda using the Force, he's using the Force in a powerful, good way. And the other thing I was going to say, as we watch Pluto turn direct on October 8th, right? So it's going to take some time to keep moving forward, going direct. But for the Pluto return of America, and that's another thing, you can hop, Adam and I, we did a video on that last fall in November of 21. That's when I explained the nuts and the bolts of the Pluto return. That's embedded. If you go to my website, it'll say near-death experience for America to rebirth, understanding a Pluto return 2021 to 24. Direct hit 3 will be back. Because we had the other one back late June, moving the second one. We had the one that opened in February and took us, and then the Pluto went retrograde, and then it hit 2 under retrograde. Direct hit 3 is going to commence 2 days after the full moon in December on the 7th. So December 9th through the 11th of January of 23 is when Pluto is right back over that 27 degrees of the country's natal Pluto. But it's a couple days right after Christmas. 26th through the 28th of December is when it's exactly on the, it's conjunct that Pluto return. So it's very, very, December is just wildly.
Right.
It's just going to be a very different holiday season. And I had wrote years back, not years back, but I wrote at the beginning of this whole awakening experience in March of 2020. I wrote an article called Becoming Friends with Simplification. And I think this holiday season is going to profoundly bring it home what that means.
Yeah.
The simplification of what will be going on. So again, hop on SharitaStar.com. You can find all these. You could go down your own rabbit holes on my site for hours. So
prepare, guys.
Have fun.
All this retrograde, this RE energy, prepare. We talked on Tarot Time about wheat production being at levels not seen since 1963. That's how little food is being produced, and cattle's dying, food's being burnt up. It's real. So prepare.
It's real.
I think it's kind of not a strong chance at this point, but still a possibility. We may experience more lockdown for a different reason. Come,
That is the to be determined of October. Yeah. I think it's highly plausible that there's some other way that they want to thwart the movement of humanity again. There may be another shot at that, and if it comes, it comes, and if it doesn't, then well, that's great. But I think there's going to be a very strong attempt, and that is all again in that this unexpected, to be determined. How is it going to happen? Why? And what's the big excuse? And so we shall see.
Cool. Somebody, Kaylee, was pointing out that Saturn will be squaring Uranus at that time.
And well, we didn't even get into that. There's so much I could talk about, but we're trying to keep this. And did I talk about that? If you go to Patreon Spirit, your what are you? Your Spirit family. I'm Soul Certainty Community.
We're gonna have
when I talked about the month of September, that is starting to form by the end of September. I talk about that Saturn Uranus squaring, and it doesn't do it exactly per se, but they get as close as they're going to get for a long time again. They are technically at the 18th degree, but they don't do the exact mathematical squaring again because Saturn turns direct in and Uranus is going to keep going backwards to be able to start doing this 16-degree thing. So Uranus is just on the edge of that 18, because remember, Uranus back from the summertime when we last spoke was conjunct the Mars still moving through Taurus at the time. So the Uranus was at 18 degrees of, Uranus has been held up at 18 degrees of Taurus for like ever, but it's about to ease off. But the Saturn is stationed at 18 degrees of Aquarius. And then that turns around in October as well. So it's the last time, that these two are going to get, which is going to also make it a little sticky. So knowing, what's cooking in your Aquarius area of your natal chart and what's happening with that Uranus, which is where the eclipse will be going off and all these other things. So, there's a lot to always keep track of.
Thanks. So I guess we should probably wind down.
Yes. How long did we go today? I don't have a clock on.
About 45 minutes. So
we wanted it 15 minutes. Hey, 45, whatever.
All right. Yes. Yeah,
it's so hard to keep it short and sweet, because there's just so much going on, and we just kind of graze the surface as usual. Yeah. But those were the highlights and things that I at least. Certain significant dates, people should be very prepared for collectively, but also be personally prepared for. And what is it that you're going to be doing? What are you going to do to serve and help and be part of whatever this healing solution is truly going to require? So if we can all do that, we're going to be doing a lot of great things as we keep awakening.
And that's what we do here on the Medium channel. That's what we encourage. So
exactly.
This can be part of your community, think local, like Sharita said. Where are your farmers? What do you need if food runs short? How are you going to cook? I used to live in a place that had a wood stove in a creek. That was perfect. Now I live in a place there's no wood stove. I mean, I still have a creek, but so I have to think about if the lights and the heat goes off, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to cook if there's no electricity.
And that's just a norm for us living in the Northeast in the winter anyway. Yeah. But if they purposely put the power out, then we have another whole problem.
Get a glaze of ice up here, and God forbid we lose power for a freaking week. So we're used to it anyway. But
well, and that's something just. An interesting Northeast thing. I wouldn't be surprised if we have an early snow up here this year with the leaves still on the trees, and that would be an interesting.
That would be because that would be a wet snow. I mean, maybe in the mountain. I'm not really seeing it yet, but
good. I'm glad you're not seeing it, because I just thought with all these wacky energies, Adam, it wouldn't be surprising to me at all.
That'd be
but
Yeah.
And you know, the other thing that I'll just touch upon, and you know, you, Heather, and I will be getting people prepared for the Mars retrograde coming, because that's just another like huge time that we're really going to need to be extra. It, you know, a Mars retrograde takes the energy of Mercury and it like amplifies it by 10 of how intense that retrograde feels. But in this one in particular, and how it is going to operate in Gemini, you want to be make sure it's just something as we prepare under the approach, because again, that's been on since 3rd of September. Just a little touch base with people about this. Make sure your internet is up to snuff. Make sure your firewalls are good. Don't have old faulty equipment, because the chances of some, you know, there's a lot. Don't open funky emails with weird links in them. Be very cautious about that, because the chances of some, like perhaps a cyber attack or perhaps that type of
absolutely
is also highly plausible as we move forward into the fall and that Mars retrograde gets going and going and going. You know, they can mess with things way more than if they wanted to be extremely you know, obviously the obvious of a nuke or something crazy like that, which would be incredulous and horrific. But they can do things in other ways, and the cyber world is one of them. So make sure your security, you know, everything you're doing with your identity online and all of these things are make sure you got things the way that they need to be, you know, to the best of your ability, because that's important too. There could be some nefarious weirdness going on with that too.
That's where the wars are being fought. They're being fought online. The cyber attacks. That's where the wars are now.
Yeah. Yes. And, you know, so, and that can really mess a lot of things up. I mean, it may not happen to any of us personally. It may be like more obviously greater things beyond us.
Yeah.
We'll small people. But, you know,
transhumanism for the next time. We don't have time for that.
Yeah, we won't get into that yet. But that's hopefully what we hope we're combating right now. Exactly. You know, and that we can't lose our souls and our spirits in this moving forward. We cannot. We have to keep our free will in check and in our own empowerment. That's all I can say. Because I won't stick around if it goes the other way.
There'll be enough of us that aren't going to do that. So
just I think not interested.
I think I'm going to, at this point, end and just let you guys know that all the links will be in the pinned comment, including Sharita's Soul Certainty community on Patreon. So we'll have that up. Yeah, like the video. That helps to get more people this information. So please like this.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for being here, and thank you for watching, and thank you for liking and sharing with your friends or anybody who you know who's interested in these types of things. Everybody have a very discerning, warrior up fall. Enjoy your autumn.
Yes,
in your empowerment.
Our the warrior is about peace, and it's about impeccability and honor. And you know, being able to defend yourself and your loved ones.
Right. That's
right. All right. We are officially namaste, aloha, and see you at the next one.